There are various ways of listening to the community around. You can do a community audit and actually find out what's going on. A lot of churches don't actually know what's going on in the community around them. They've become so isolated. Find out what their needs are. Go to places where people are. Go to pubs, social clubs, talk to people at work, talk to people as you're shopping. There are all sorts of ways of listening to the community. I think those who are in a church leader position are also in a good position to do that listening, because they very often have an open door to talk to people in leadership roles in the community around them.
One of the best things we ever did was to get some people round to a pub. We paid for a meal for them, a group of about 10 people, and we just asked them simple questions about if they went to church, what would they like church to be like, when would be a good time, what would be the kind of things they would find valuable. And just a very simple way to listen to a cross-section of a community, of how church could connect with them in real and relevant ways.
What is our mission field? And I think the simplest way of discovering that is actually to ask the question, who do we have contact with who at present are on the edge or outside of Christian community? Now, most of us as individuals, and certainly as church communities, have such contacts. When we've discerned what that area of contact might be, that group of people, we need then to ask, how can we serve them? How can the gospel first of all be experienced as good news for those people's lives? So a simple question that I often encourage myself and others to ask is, how can my church, my life, be a blessing to those with whom I live?
As a social psychologist, I would recommend some of the tools of my trade. And some of those tools are good social research. And you can do that in a very friendly way. What do you need? What are you looking for? What kind of events would appeal to you? When would be convenient for you? What kind of situation would you feel comfortable coming into? Doing that kind of research, it's deeper than market research, but it covers some of those areas. And then once you start from listening to what people need, that's an ongoing process. But it's a dialogue. You never let go of what you know the redemptive work of Christ is meant to be in people's lives, but it's a matter of making those two ends fit together.
Simply paying attention to what's going on, and primarily to what God is doing within a particular community and context, but also listening to yourself, to the church community, to what's going on there, to the gifts that you have. And as people do that listening all around them, we started talking about 360-degree listening now within Fresh Expressions. As people talk about that listening, so new calls and new directions become clear.
Listening to an area, I suppose, is kind of shorthand. It is partly listening, quite literally, in terms of conversations. What are the issues that local people have? Some of it is watching what's happening to our area, who's moving in. I mean, a very simple thing is simply looking at the for sale boards outside houses. Those would be two beginnings. And you begin to feel some sense of what are people's issues around here, what do they think is important, how do they spend their time. That's a beginning.
On one hand, if you're just going to start with where you are, you might totally miss what God's doing outside of the church. But on the other hand, if you just listen to all the voices and all the needs, you can get totally bogged down. So I think we found it's a case of actually listening and doing that honestly, but then thinking strategically, what can we actually do and what has God called us to do?
Your congregation already has certain gifts and graces that God can use more fully than are there, but you need to tune them and you need to develop them, just like a weightlifter would need to do some training to be fitter. And to bring a consultant in or to bring a facilitator into a local church setting is not to admit defeat because you can't do it on your own. It's actually to release all kinds of giftedness in the church and to facilitate possibilities that are really quite exciting.